And welcome to my trumpet live stream. Today is going to be a little bit of a shorter one because I have some errands to run, and I have one very simple topic that, now that I'm saying it out loud, maybe is complicated to some people, but it's the idea of whether you can practice technique or physical trumpet playing without practicing music, or the idea of making music. And the very fast answer, sorry, I'm going to make sure, I just want to make sure my stream was working. So you can type in the chat anytime if you have any questions. I still have that open. But so the question between technique and music, and can you do one without the other, is really answered best by saying, well, whether or not you can, should you do it? And so I wanted to do a warm-up that is not necessarily my typical warm-up. It will have typical elements in it, but I thought, okay, let's do a warm-up where I just follow the music and then also demonstrate when maybe I won't do that, right? So I have a bunch of pieces in front of me here, and I sort of stole this idea from a story that my dad tells a lot, and that is about playing for a Dockschützer masterclass, in which he basically the first guy that played, Dockschützer ripped him to shreds, and then my dad came up and played, and he played musically, but also these lip slurs that were very well executed, and Dockschützer just said, yeah, that's what you do. That's a very short version. It's not my story to tell, so let him tell it the best way. But he was saying that you should never practice technique without practicing musically, and you should never play musically without having good technique. In other words, they're always linked together. And so I don't know that they're always linked together. I would say they probably should be linked together because think about it this way. If I want to play something, let's say I've got a Spinning Song, which is a Mendelssohn piano piece that has been transcribed for euphonium that I'm reading off the treble clef version of, but this is famously known as A Bee's Wedding on the Håkan Hardenberger album At the Beach. And so I'll play a little bit. I played a little bit today, but I'll show you what I mean. So here's a little bit of A Bee's Wedding or Spinning Song. So you can see I haven't looked at this in a long time, but that's some technique to it, right? But it's also music. There's right, right. There's arrivals. There's music going on, and also the music itself, right? This piece by Mendelssohn is music, as we say, right? We call that music. Well, why? It's what he wanted us to play. It's this order of these pitches, and so that is also informative, right? I'm not saying it's just the act of music making, but it's also the music itself. Why am I going to play this piece over another piece? Well, because it's better music than something else, right? Or maybe because I have to, but then I want to make the most of it. So the music that I pick out is going to inform what kinds of techniques I need, and then also the act of music making itself is going to inform the kinds of things I want to practice so that I can make the most of that phrase or of that arrival point, right? So that's kind of where we're starting off with some different kinds of techniques that, so what's in there? Well, my chromatic scale, so my fingerings. I also need to just look at this part, at this page again. I haven't done it in maybe 4 or 5 years. It just happened to be on the stand because I was bringing some hard stuff home from school to practice, and I like this one. So it also has some double tonguing, and the double tonguing isn't just like it's right. It's very bigger leaps. Oh, my third valve's going to stick. That's a physical problem that I have to solve, right? So okay, now I am talking about warming up and I'm not doing any of it. So how might my basic things be informed better by music? And then also, what things might I want not to, if I'm going to do them unmusically, which ones are they and why? And can I practice music without practicing technique? And we'll get to that at the end. So let's just talk about first notes. I have a bunch of things on my agenda of what I want to accomplish, and these are based on things I want to be able to do, right? So if you're not very good at keeping a trumpet journal, which is a lot of people just don't want to, or they don't see the reason to, or they're just not very good at it. They want to do it and they understand the reason, but they just don't do it. And so I would always give those people the advice, do a trumpet journal that you actually will do. And so for me, it's easy to, it's in the other room, but it's easy to use a template and fill it out and make sure that I do everything I want to every day. And I don't have any problem doing that because I like to be organized in that way. But other people, that's too much. It's overwhelming, or it's just not, they don't do the same things every day. And arguably maybe they should, but maybe they don't want to for some reason. And so a template doesn't work very well for them. And so for a long time, that was me. I wanted to do whatever strikes my fancy every day. And so I just used a blank page with no lines or anything. I could draw pictures if I want, right? Anything I want. Mostly what I would do is sort of keep track of what I did over the course of the day, and then I would draw lines as I was making connections in my playing. So that way I could see, oh, this high soft playing is connected somehow to my piccolo playing, and that's connected to my high range study. But I have to make it soft, and so like that, it would give me a lot of information. But I didn't want to. I didn't want it to have to line up on lines where it felt disconnected, right? So anything you're going to actually do is the way you should keep a trumpet journal. Why am I talking about journals again? Well, because one of the things you should keep in your journal is a list of stuff you want to be able to do, right? You don't have to do it all every day, but it's good to check in with maybe once a week and say, yeah, am I addressing some of the things on this list, or is it just not happening, you know? And if it's really important to you, you should address it every day. If it's maybe a further out technique, then something that's really basic to you, then maybe you just address it a couple of times a week or once a month, right? Just to check on it. Any habits that I have, I want to address once a month, roughly, to make sure that they haven't gone anywhere, right? And so that might be my A major scale or something, right? Just things like that I know that they're there, but I want to make sure they're there and work on them a little bit to make sure to maintain them. So anyway, but I want to have a list of things I want to do. On my list is alto trumpet. I want to play more alto trumpet because I want this nice big baritone sort of voice or tenor voice. And so I've got my alto right here. Oh, it's still locked up from when I traveled with it. So I put these two different. One of these isn't big enough to do all of the holding it together that it needs to just like not bang around in the case. So anyway, put those right there. So I've got my alto trumpet here, and I also usually do big mouthpieces at the beginning of the day. So I'm gonna get out my bass trumpet mouthpiece, and I could do this with my tuba mouthpiece or my other ones, but I'm gonna play bass trumpet now, alto trumpet actually, with a bass trumpet mouthpiece. And so okay, what's my goal here? Another way that I like to talk about practicing is to think about the far-reaching goal first, right? And then think about what targets would get you there. So in other words, on the way there, so for instance, my far-reaching goal is I want to have a really nice, beautiful tone on the alto trumpet. Okay, that sounds pretty good. Of course, I want to get around it too, on the horn, right? I want to be able to play something on it. And so, all right, that's a good goal. So far, so good. How am I going to get there? Well, the first target's probably just to get a good response on this big, stupid mouthpiece, right? Okay, but I can even do that musically, right? If I put a metronome on, that's too fast. But let's say I want to go 60. Okay. Well, I want musically, what would have time? Well, music often has time, but just my entrance, right, needs to come exactly right in a certain spot, in a certain way. If it's late, then I've abandoned the music. If it's early, then I've violated it, right? So I want just pa, pa, And you can hear already in my voice, right? I'm singing somewhat nuanced, somewhat musical, right? Musically. So first let's get a pitch. Sure, right? Why not? So I didn't live up to my goal, but that's okay. Now I'm letting the music tell me where to go. Now, since we're here, let's talk about what I would do unmusically in order to maybe fast track this a little bit, right? So I'll turn this off. Maybe I just want to figure out the lip placement for a second, right? And just guess at it, right? So let me do a couple of just experiments. These are not musical. This is just me kind of trying to figure out how to play. Okay, so not musical at all, just physical. And that is important because I could spend all day trying to be musical already, and I would get somewhere with that, right? But it might take a long time, and I might get really upset about it as I'm doing it. Whereas if I just do a little bit of physical, like physical only stuff, that might help. But it's a little bit, right? Then I want to make the rest of my day about doing things musically. So let's try that. Let's apply that. Oops, I pulled out too far on my tuning slide tuner, and well, it opened up the vent. So anyway, so I was playing Nessun Dorma, right, this whole time, and a lot of it you could see me go in and out of like, oh, okay, this physically isn't working on the low A. Let me just stop trying to be musical for a second and just get it to work a little bit, right? But then immediately back to music, and this happens to me all the time where I'm a very technical minded practicer, and so I will try to get something to work well forever and then just kind of leave it there instead of applying it musically to something. And guess what? I'm never going to use it unmusically. So I always need to connect it eventually. So it's okay if you do things that are unmusical in order, to serve a purpose. In other words, my targets, right? I wasn't hitting any of my targets of my tone, of the response. So I just needed to stop for a second, stop trying to be musical, stop trying to apply it, and get that big resonant sound and this sort of beautiful voice, and just try to get the response to just happen for a second, right? And then once I sort of figured out what I was doing, then I tried to connect it right back to the piece and eventually actually play through some of it, right? So maybe that's all I want to do on this today. But I addressed my alto playing a little bit, and maybe I'll pick it back up later and play, like actually play some stuff, or maybe I'll just leave it till tomorrow, right? Depends on how urgent the need is and how much I really want to do it, right? If I really, really want to do it, I'll spend all day doing it, right? If I don't have anything else more urgent to do. So anyway, that's already, we've already started using music to kind of empower, embolden our practice, but we also know when to just do something physical, and it can be very easy to make a misguided decision when you're choosing to be unmusical on purpose. So, like I said, just do it a little bit, right? It should only be maybe 10% at the most of your practice, and that's only if you have really remedial issues like I do on this mouthpiece, where I just can't get it even to respond. Okay, well, then I need to spend like 10% of my time just figuring that out, but then I got to apply it, and that's going to be 90% of my time. And again, the music is telling me what I need to be able to do, right? Low A is in the cards here, so I got to be able to do it. If it didn't have a low A, then I might not care so much, right? It doesn't have many low A's, thank goodness, but it does come right away at the top of the piece, so I definitely need to be able to ice it cold eventually if I want to play Nessun Dorma. And I did many years ago, but anyway. All right, I said this would be short, and I'm already up to, what, 16 minutes? I sort of planned about a half hour, and, well, I'm not going to make it, but... Okay, so, now, I've only kind of worked on my response on the bass trumpet. I guess I better do something else. And I can apply that if I wanted to do maybe cutout would be a good strategy next, right? And it's very easy for the cutout to be completely unmusical or amusical, if you will. But it doesn't have to be. Again, I can apply exactly the same strategy, but it is kind of a tool. It's a physical tool, right? I'm trying to get a buzzy buzz. I'm trying to get the response to be really instantaneous and hopefully with as little effort as possible, but with the right kind of effort in the right place. So now I'm kind of talking qualitatively about not necessarily music, but tone, which is one of the elements of music, right? My sound. So let's try a little bit of this. And I think I will leave, I don't know how to do this exactly. I usually leave this on for buzzing because I like that you can hear it better on the stream. So I guess I'll just turn it down and try to memorize the spot. So you can hear, this is physical, right? I'm just trying to get the physical position, and then I could turn the metronome back on, and maybe I can try it. We want to divorce our idea of like if I want like a soft entrance, right? Well, I still need just as much immediacy of air to get that to respond. So, and that's why you can't practice music without practicing technique, right? That's the reverse of it. I can't practice technique without practicing music because that technique would be irrelevant. But I can't practice music without practicing technique because guess what? The technique doesn't feel like the sound sounds all the time, right? So that's really what we're doing here is making sure we have them in the right proportions. If I want to go, I want to come in out of nowhere on like Nessun Dorma or something. Well, if I do that on the mouthpiece, guess what it's going to be? Right? It's not going to be a good sound because I'm not putting the production in the right place. So that's the balance here, right? So I'm getting the physical, you know. And then I'm applying it right away to something musical. And I can just turn on the metronome again. Late. right? So I'm applying, and I'm still just, this is a tool, so I'm not really making real music here, but I'm imagining it, right? And what's the difference, right? I'm practicing a physical act while I'm playing musically in my mind, and I'm letting my physical body try to figure out how best to keep the physical part working in service of the musical idea. I think that's the best way to say it. So okay. Now let's get into this actual stuff we want to play, right? So what do I got here? Well, I've got chromatics. I think I know a good way to practice those. I've got sort of double tongue leaps, and again, I could just practice the piece if I want to, and I can do all of my normal techniques. I can go slowly. I can sing it first and then play it. I can just practice the fingerings, which I do need to do. Is that really a B natural? I don't know if that's right. Yeah, it is. Okay, anyway, sorry. Got distracted by the piece. But okay, so I'm trying to practice my technique in service of this spinning song, of this A Bee's Wedding, as I said, right? So what techniques do I need? Well, I need double tonguing. I need chromatics, fast fingers chromatics. I need scales in fourths. And I need a good tone that I can keep no matter where, no matter what I'm playing, right? So I can say first and foremost, I need to work on my production, and then I need to keep that production as I do more and more things. So I'm going to start off with, maybe I do a whole set of long tones, but let's just see if we can get any notes. I'm actually going to try this on the straight 7 too, because this is like it's got enough extra little bite that sometimes I can pop things out, but I take a little bit of a hit on my tone because of it, and so I want to make sure that I can get all of what I want. Okay, so I'm just going to play some very basic long tones-ish things. This will be a little bit quick and dirty, and then I'm going to try to get closer and closer to this, right? I got to get all of that worked out individually, maybe practice my technique because of the music and musically while I do it, right? In other words, with direction, and then I can try to start putting it together. So now, is that a sound I like? I'm okay with it. I've got some response happening. I had to sort of adjust to this rim. And I did, so you saw again, I got some physical things, right? And then I said, okay, let's play what this music demands of me. And just Clark number 1, right? Starting on G and going down, and then starting on G and going up. And that gets me kind of in the center of this piece. So I'm doing it because of the music, maybe not the most musical exercise, right? But I'm always trying to keep everything the same, and that means an intensified support. If I do it unmusically or without regard for the sort of intensity of the line, right, then you'll hear it fall off. Well, let me just do it physically, and you'll see. It just doesn't sound good. The tone was worse. I didn't try to make the tone worse. The support sort of just tapered off because I wasn't supporting more and more over the course of my breath in order to keep it the same. I was supporting just what felt like the same, right? So that's one of the other reasons why we don't want to do things devoid of music, because then we sort of shut off. We shut off our sensors for what is good, and quality is somewhat elusive sometimes to especially the beginner or the younger student. They say, "Well, I can do it. So what's the difference?" And it's like, "Well, can you do it with a good tone?" "Well, I did it." And it's like, "Well, no, okay, but it has to sound good. It can't just be gotten, so to speak." And the only way we can really have that perception is through music, is through our musical ear. We know what it should sound like, and so that's the sound we want it to have, right? And so that desire for quality comes from a musical approach and not just a physical one. You can also argue, for instance, like that, something is easier when it works better, right? Because what you're doing is working, and so that has a musical sort of backbone to it of like, yeah, I'm trying to do this thing, and even though I'm doing a lot of work, it's working, so it feels easier because it's happening the way that I envision it. Or you can say easier means less work, and therefore, is fine. See what I mean? And now, we of course nobody's going to do that and try to get away with it, but those two perspectives are at odds, right? And so we want to go with the one that has the high quality to it. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get this higher quality thing, and that will be easier because it's the only way that I can get it, if that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't make sense, but that's the way I think about it. So okay, so we've done some Clarks. Now you might say, well, okay, Gabriel, your warm-ups always have lip slurs in them, and we haven't done any of those yet, right? Absolutely, we have not. So what kind do we need for this piece? Well, we need some lip slurs, mostly scales and thirds, arpeggios, and but then we have some double tonguing bigger skips. So I think I'm going to do sort of just make 'em up exercise, but I'm sure that you could find one where the interval continues to expand, and I'm going to base it on G again because that's kind of where this whole piece tends to sit for big periods of time. So even these exercises I'm trying to do musically with direction to the first note again as I restart, and then faster because that's what the music demands, but always, and it helps immediately. As soon as I stop thinking vertically and think horizontally, my air support is better, my notes turn out to be, sometimes I'll get a little junk between them, but the center of them is cleaner and everything is better. So I don't know if that's real or imagined, but it's certainly real in terms of what's happening, right? I don't know how it works, but I don't need to. I just need to know that it does actually matter to the end result, right? So okay, so I've done some lip slurs, not a ton. What about range? Well, this goes up to high C. Oh, hi David. This is that same piece I played in our lesson. David asked, what piece am I doing this for? This is, as I said before in the stream, Spinning Song by Felix Mendelssohn. It is also known as A Bee's Wedding on the Håkan Hardenberger album, At the Beach, is the name of the album. Also the name of another piece that is very good, that is on the album, the eponymous track, you might say. So, okay, so now I've done some of that, but what's the range? Well, I have to play up to high C, and I also have to play kind of around this top of the staff a lot, and I need to be like physically kind of ready for it. And so I might actually just excerpt some of the stuff from here, but it's double tonguing when I do it. And so I might suitably combine efforts here, and the high C is kind of an arrival, so that's good for me. So I can just do that, right? Let me try to come up with an exercise that that helps me. Well, I need to work on my range, and I did talk about scales in thirds and fourths before, so why don't we play a scale in thirds or fourths or both, right? So the part that I'm talking about is kind of like diminished, so that's not going to help us very much, but the overall piece is in C, even though I don't know that I would necessarily put it in C personally all of the time, but it's really more in G a lot. But let's just call it C, right? There's no key signature. If I was just practicing this for the first time, I wouldn't know much about it. So I'm just going to play a scale in thirds and then a scale in fourths in some of the different keys that I see on the page. And I'm always going to try to make an arrival of high C, and then maybe I can add some double tonguing too. Being careful not to sacrifice what I've already built, right? I have to make sure that the tone that I got from my earlier exercises that I was enjoying and my ability to move around the horn is not being sacrificed as I build extra things on top of it that are, again, based on the piece. So I'm playing these scales in fourths that are on the page, and I'm playing them slowly, and now I'm adding double tongue, but I'm losing a little bit of sound, and it also is getting a little bit harder to do. So two things here, right? One is that I may need to rest and try again in a second, and the other is maybe it's just harder, but that doesn't mean I have to accept a sacrifice of sound. I can accept a sacrifice of stamina, of muscle, right? I can use a little more to get what I want, but I can't just give up whole things. Now, if I'm trying to figure out how to do it more efficiently, it's okay to give up something temporarily in the service of the overall, right? But again, we're focusing on the musical sound of it versus the technical action required. And so our technique is always in service of the music, and then the music is going to require our good technique. So. So I'm trying to be musical and double tongue at the same time with these sort of like miniature arrivals. And I'm trying to do things that are like what I'm doing on the page, but maybe a little bit easier. This doesn't feel easy to do, but that's why I'm doing it. I'm abstracting but I'm still keeping music as a part of the way I do it, right? I'll keep going. Now, the only thing you have to be mindful of is when you play musically slowly, it takes more effort to make that music really, really shine. When it's fast, there's a little bit of just like bright poppy fireworks that comes along with just playing quickly and articulating and doing all the pyrotechnics that we know are hard on the trumpet. But when I go slowly, I have to rot this music out of kind of the wrong tempo and therefore the wrong style a little bit. And so I'm making more out of it than I will when I go fast. When I go fast, it actually should get easier to do the same gesture, right? Because it happens faster, but only if I'm coordinated enough to do it. And that's the technique serving the music part, or rather the music informing the technique or leaning on the technique. If I don't have the technical ability, it's not going to, it doesn't matter how musical I try to be, I'm just not going to get it. And if I have great technique and I can play the thing, well, what does it matter if I don't play musically? So now this brings me to, can I practice music without technique? We already discussed when and how much we would maybe ever practice technique without music. And again, it's that just barely 10% and only the most remedial basic things that are just getting in our way, so that when we try to play musically, just nothing happens, right? That it's okay to take care of that, but then we want to get right back into the music, or at least the reason that we're doing it has something to do with music, right? But can I practice music without practicing technique? And should I? And the answer is absolutely you can. It's called singing. And we should do it a lot because it isn't actually totally devoid of technique. Your tongue position and your ear are part of your technique, and you will use them when you sing. Even if you sing poorly like I do, you will absolutely use them when you sing. And I can also do the fingerings as well if I wish, right? There are reasons not to do it, and I am about to demonstrate that. So let's say I'm not sure how I want to play a phrase, but I want to try to figure it out. Well, if I try to do the fingerings and they're at all difficult, I'm going to get caught up in the fingerings. I'm going to go. I'm just practicing technique now. I'm just learning this piece now. But if I want to know where the musical phrase goes, well, for that I'm just going to sing it. And I'm not even going to sing it well. I'm going to sing it more roughshod, sort of unrefined, and not even necessarily on pitch. The pitches matter, absolutely, and in a theoretical kind of context, they really tell you everything you need to know about where the phrase goes. But if I'm just looking at the gesture, right, and I've already looked at the pitches, then how about, let's see, I'll go... Okay, so do I build that? What do I want to do? So I don't even have to, like, it doesn't have to be, like, technically anything for me to know the music. And that's giving me information that then I'm going to use to inform what technique I need. What technique do I need for this? Well, that last surprise pianissimo dynamic, that's something I'm going to have to build into, right? My fingers are going to have to be really just perfect for me to go this fast. But I like the speed. That sounds good to me, right? So now maybe I can't go that fast, and so that's my technique holding back my musicality, right? I want to go fast. That's a sound that I can hear. But let's see what I can do, right? I certainly can do the same arrival points, right? So what do we have? So bump bump bump. That's a sort of miniature bump 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 bottom bump 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 bottom bump 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 bottom bump 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 bottom bump. And it's really the arrival. The arrival is there's a sort of these accents on big two, right? But the arrival of all of that is the rest at letter B in my case before the next technical passage. So that's what I'm really building up to. And now I'm going to slow down so that I can try to build that into the technique. So in this case, I'm figuring out physically what I need to do to sell those arrival points, and then I'm going to build that in so habitually that that just comes out when I play it a little faster, right? So I'm going to go slow. So you can see now, I practiced as musically as I could with just my voice, and now I'm forcing my technique to try to keep up with that, but I'm giving it a chance by slowing down. This valve is sticky, so I need to clean this horn, obviously, but if I just kind of make sure there's no hangers on, so to speak, then maybe I can get it to work for a little while longer. And like I said, I didn't plan to go this long in the first place, but that's basically all I wanted to really cover, is just to say, all right, well, how is the music telling me what techniques I need to practice? And this is the thing, you can sit in a room and try to do everything on the trumpet that there is to do, but what is the purpose of it if not to be able to play music? So you don't have to sit in a room and guess. You can just pick out songs that you would like to do. Now, what I talked to David about in the lesson, which was just an hour before this, that I think is really important is you can absolutely reach for the stars, right? You should try, like, have goals, and that's why you write them down. But some of your goals might be really far-fetched for now, right? If you're trying to triple tongue up to double high C like Alan Vizzuti does on Carnival of Venus, that's a great goal. But if you can't play above the staff right now, that trying to do that over and over again is just going to be frustrating. So you have to do things that are adjacent to what your current ability is, not within your current ability, but adjacent to, right? And you can also always refine your current ability to make it easier, to make it better still, to make it more consistent with a better tone maybe, right? Anything that's already in your wheelhouse, you can improve that, and that's only going to improve your overall trumpet playing. But you also want to work just past the barrier of what you feel comfortable with all the time. That's where you're going to make the most improvements. So with that in mind, let's pick out some other stuff. And I'll just show you a little bit. Like I said, Nessun Dorma is very far outside, on the alto trumpet, very outside my realm of comfortable things, right? Oh, here's a good piece. I don't know why this came home with me, but Charlier Solo de Concourse is a really great, really nice piece. And, well, here's a great example. Let's see if I can... Where's the spot with the trills? That's really I really want to do. It's not yet. But okay, so yeah, that's... Well, where are they? I don't know where the trills went. Yeah, I'm just looking through. Oh, there they are. Okay. And I play this on C trumpet, so that'll be nice, except that it's probably also in need of some cleaning. Oops. And we'll switch back to our normal straight 8 mouthpiece for this, just because we can. And what I'm looking at right now is a very nasty looking lick, and I'll play it for you slowly, and you'll see what I mean. So what is all that? Well, and it goes it goes pretty quick, and there's a triplet version above it, just before it, I should say. So what is that? Well, it's just all diminished 7 chords, right? And how many diminished 7 chords are there, you might ask, that I need to practice all the time, and if I want to be able to play this music? Well, think about it for a second. And I could do like a real YouTuber and say, if you're watching this, write your answer in the comments below. I'll know if you waited until after I said it. I don't know why people do that. It's funny, I guess. But okay, so how many are there? How many diminished 7 chords before they overlap each other, right? Well, that's easy. You just take the largest interval, right, which is the only interval, minor third, right, and the ones that you skipped over are the only other ones, right? Because they'll fill in the gaps all the way through. So there's, right? And if I go down, I can go down a half step. So right? And then well, I've already overlapped it, right? So that A flat is back where I started, right? So that's 3 is the right answer, which David got. So and I did in fact see you. I saw it in the chat. For those of you who are watching this later, of course, I'll know. But David did it in real time, so even better. So okay, that's not very many, but I need to sit down and practice those. So I'll get my Arbens book out, wherever it is, down here somewhere. And I won't do it right now, but there's a whole section that's just all of your diminished 7 chords, and it's called that, diminished 7 arpeggios. Okay, so let's try it out. I'm not going to do that, but oh, I'm sorry, I didn't turn it off. Okay, sorry about that. Now, I should have practiced all of them, but I haven't practiced them in this order. So I'm going to have to build this in. But again, I can use my singing to figure out how I want it to go. This one is pretty obvious to me, but I'll sing it anyway. And then I'm going to practice it slowly with that same arrival, and then I can speed it up with a metronome. So here we go. Singing first. Right, I want to go all the way to the ending. It's easy. So I'm just kind of singing through the rest of the passage, and it almost always goes across the bar line. So that's very simple. and it makes sense. It's often that's the reason we kind of have bar lines, is that we want to go across them musically. So here we go. I'll try to play this a little bit slowly, and then we'll see if we can speed it up. There's only a low F, I forgot. So yeah, I would need to look at the other scales a little bit, right, to make sure I should have just been able to play them, but I hadn't built that into my practice today, and so there you can see that messed up the music. But otherwise, we were able to make those musical phrases, and the sound stayed the sound stayed good, and our fingers obeyed. Because, and you notice that last time I didn't even look at the notes because, well, why would I? It's just sounds, actually, right? Now, what I wanted to do over here was these trills, but we don't actually need to do them. They're not really all that interesting. It's just what I was thinking of when I saw the front of the piece. We've got Jolivet's Second Concerto. We've got Francais Sonatine, right? We've got George Antheil. And you can imagine these all have certain challenges, but the one that I actually need to practice is the album leaf, which is also on that same said Håkan Hardenberger album, At the Beach. So what do I need for this one? Well, I folded on the fingerings yesterday a little bit on this and in front of people, and I'd like to make sure that doesn't happen most of the time. I also just need to practice my ability to play musically while playing this really short, light articulation. So I'm going to practice, I can practice music in the abstract as well. So the passage goes, and I like to have this sort of almost like pause to the beginning, but if you do that too much, then the pianist who goes, right, on two, you're gonna confuse your pianist. And so I want to learn to play it more musically, with strict time instead of using time to be musical. But I also need then to play with more nuance to the articulation and color. So I'm going to practice that first, right? So I'm just going to play a simpler thing than what's written on the page and just practice being in time but being more musical. Yeah, so now the other part that you have to remember about practicing this way is it's extremely taxing. Physically, it's taxing because you aren't concerned as much about the physical side as you are the musical side. And that means you're going to do things a little inefficiently. But the goal is then to reel in the efficiency and make sure that it's both efficient and getting the sound that you want. And so that takes more rest and it takes some of these abstract exercises, but if you do it all at once and just kind of bang your head against the wall, then you just end up tired, and then you spend even more to try to get it done. And so while you still learn the lesson, you rarely feel like you actually get the desired result. Whereas if I rest for a second here, right, I can remember what I just did, and now I still need to work on the fingering, so I can do that while I wait, right? And I'm still singing musically even though I'm practicing fingerings right now, right? Oops. That's right. It just doesn't feel right. And I need to be able to memorize it basically, so because it just looks bad, and I'm transposing it down a steps. It's got double sharps all over the place, and everything just looks wrong. And so why look at it is the question, right? I'm not gonna. Okay, that's enough rest. Let's see if I can apply this. And we were going a little slower than we'll probably go in reality, but it's good to be able to make music slower, because then, like I said earlier, as you speed it up, it gets easier. Okay, so again, it's still very taxing. This piece is really hard this way, but once I take the metronome back off, and if my valves would ever stop being a little bit sticky, again, got to clean your horns, everybody, then I can play softer. I'm really playing with the articulation as the musical arrival kind of device, right? So I'm going... So I'm using more of a dit, a really sharper, harsher, brighter articulation for the arrivals, and I'm using a little bit brushier of an articulation until then. And if I can just do that and just use as little, the smallest airstream possible to make sure that I'm still getting the sound I want, then I'm going to get a nice, soft, bright sound that travels, right? So that's what we're looking to do. Let's see if I can get it. So okay, pretty good. And I'm going to call it here because I'm getting tired and I'm very late for my chores. So that's the kind of idea, that the music is always informing of you of what kinds of techniques you need to be working on. So in this instance, articulation, color change, right? I need to have the range and the stamina to be able to do this kind of thing. So there's a lot going on, and all I have to do as a practicer is try to play musically, find out what is not working for me, and write down that I need to work on that. And then tomorrow, when I'm fresh again, guess what? I look at my list, and that's going to be right on the edge of my ability to do it, because it's the only, maybe I only find one or two holes in my playing when I play this piece. Okay, well then I'm pretty close to getting those, and that means they're right on the bleeding edge of my ability. And so if I can just push my ability to play trumpet over those goalposts, then I'm going to be, this music told me to do that, and then I'm going to be able to apply it to this music usefully. And so that's the way that those two sort of work together. And I think it saves a lot of people from the brink to think this way, because they're like, oh, you know, my technique is never going to be good enough. Well, yeah, you're right. It's never going to be good enough. But what are you doing with your technique right now? What are you applying it to? What is actually really working for you? And are you letting the piece? Sometimes you, by virtue of playing musically, you actually play the trumpet differently, and that's really what we've been talking about all day today, right? When I think musically, just everything works better. And so, can I, if I can do that, right? Then can I figure out what I'm doing better when I play musically and just do that all the time? Well, maybe not right away, but then just do it more. Do more music and get the benefit of that. And then after you do it every day for 100 days, well, that's the way you play now. And so you never needed to know how to do it. Now, it's very useful if you can figure it out physically, but if you never do, that's okay. Just get the benefit of it and then just keep going that direction. But I find that a balance is a little bit better approach. If I can figure things out physically, but the music tells me what to figure out, that seems to be the best approach for me. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this live stream today about technique and music and the space between and overlap and all of that. I'm going to call it here, and I will be back next week. All right, see you later.